Hello there. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Happy Tuesday afternoon. How are you doing? I see there's a few of you here already. Say hello. Tell me where you're from. I am in southeastern Massachusetts. And it is a beautiful sunny day, unlike yesterday. Hey, Ed Jewelry, good to see you again. Unlike yesterday, we had a crazy windstorm. It was nuts. Gusts 50 to 70 miles an hour. It was insane. Did you have weather like that in Pennsylvania? Well, while we're waiting for everybody, I'll give you a peek of my work table. I've got all kinds of things going on. Oh, you'd recall. If you had the wind we had yesterday, you'd recall. Flipping around. There we go. Hi, Star. I thought I would show you a few things on my desk today. This one will actually probably be better viewed from the top-down view, but this is my polymer clay. I'll stand up for a moment. There you go, hooked on the drawer. This is my polymer clay toolbox, and I love it. I pull this out every time I'm working on something. Well, sometimes I just start by pulling out my clay blade and my acrylic roller. And then usually I just pull the whole thing down because I need it. But that is foam core in there that I made into dividers for all the different tools. And I love that thing. I pulled out a whole bunch of things that maybe I'd use for decorating the fairy house. I've got moss and shells and some sand and stones. And I made a little progress on my house since last week. And let's see. Oh, that's a patron video I've been working on. That'll come out at the end of the week. And oh, just a few things I thought we might use to finish decorating our fairy houses. So I saw some of you have shared your houses that you're working on Facebook, which is really cool. I love seeing what you're doing and your take on it, and especially how some of you styled them for the photographs. You did a beautiful job, so that was fun to see. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and just get started. Get the cord out of the way. Oh, sorry. Forgot to flip you around. You had a lovely view of the ceiling. Here we go. Why is that so dark? I've got two lights happening here. Okay, there. Hi, Roberta. Blessings to you, too. From Washington. My mom used to live in Washington. Beautiful state. So I thought I would show you some of the progress I've made on the house and give some ideas for attaching your roofs in case you haven't gotten that far. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take this off. Not because I don't like it, but because it tends to clank and be annoying on the tile. So this is one of the fairy houses you saw me working on the past couple of weeks. But since you saw it last, I finished the roof, adding the shingles that I showed you how to do. And I'm going to make a playlist of these 3 live streams so that you could go back through and watch them all and get the whole project. So I showed how to make the shingles. And this one, if you remember, if you saw it last week, was on a piece of aluminum foil as an armature. There was a layer of translucent clay, which you can just barely see in there. And then I put the shingles on that and baked it. And after baking, I was very easily able to pull the aluminum foil right out. So that was cool. And then once I pulled the aluminum foil out, I added liquid clay and added some more shingles on the inside, just to the point where I needed the, well, just to the point where the top of the house or bottom of the jar would go. And to make sure that this would stick on there, I actually rolled a snake of just some of the scraps from the shingles and put that on top of the house, added liquid clay on both sides, and pressed it in. And you can see maybe right there where a little bit of it squished out, and that's fine. But that way, there's a really good connection. This is on the house solidly. Hi, Belinda from Florida, and Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Good to see you. Also, Florida, yay. Warm sunniness. Although we're finally starting to get some warm sunniness here in Massachusetts. Yay. I had an idea with this, which I didn't do, and I don't think I'm going to because of time. But remember, I had thought this looked like a lighthouse? And I had thought it would be fun to actually cut this top off and add something, well, like the top of a lighthouse in between, like add an edging and maybe 4 like spacers and holding this up above. And that way when you put the lights on the inside, the light would also glow out up here. So all kinds of thoughts. Here's the other one. This is the one you watched me make with the steps, which I keep thinking makes me think of the seashore. And here is the mushroom top you watched me start last week. In this one, the aluminum foil is staying in there. It is part of the structure. And I used scrap clay, as you can tell. I'm still using up that horrible Arteza clay. So I just used that, put that underneath. There's another layer of scrap clay under this. No, this is the scrap clay, excuse me. The gray clay is the scrap on top. And I rolled out some clay that this will be the final color. It's kind of a gray-brown, but I want to color this with pan pastels. We may get to that, but I promised you guys that I would show you finishing details. So we'll do that. We'll see what time we're at that point. But this one, I was trying to think of how to marry the mushroom with the stone. First, I'll find a side that I like, that I think goes well. So I think when I cover this part, of course, this is scrap that will be covered with maybe some kind of a buff color. I'll do, you know, those frilly things. I'm not sure what they're called. If you guys know, chime in. Those frilly things on the undersides of mushrooms, I'll kind of do a couple rows here, and that will sort of marry the two together. And, you know, it's a strange thing, but it's fairy. It's all make-believe. So why not have a mushroom cap growing out of a stone house? Who says it can't? So those are just some ideas for possibilities, directions you can go. You might notice on this one that I already antiqued it. And that's something to keep in mind that you can do. I don't always do it because I'm impatient, and I actually really dislike antiquing. It scares me covering up all my work with paint, but then it always looks better afterwards. But if you're going to make something where you'll be adding details, it's not a bad idea to antique it before you add those details, because then you don't have to worry about getting the paint underneath and around them. Like here's a piece. Oh, my swelligant patinas are still curing, so you can't really see it on this, can you? I was going to show you, but I just realized that you can't see it because I added the swelligant paint. But if you think about it, so here's this little octopus on here, and I antiqued the whole thing. But in these areas, like down in here and in here, I wasn't able to get the antiquing off. So although the heart itself is antiqued, the octopus kind of looks like part of the object rather than being its own separate object. And that it's just a subtle difference. It's also a lot easier to get a clean antiquing if you just do your base object first and then add something on top of it. But you can do it either way. And also if you have something delicate, he's not particularly delicate, but if you have something delicate like vines and flowers, it's nice not to have to scrub off paint from around them. So I think, speaking of vines and flowers, I think that's the first thing I'm going to do is maybe add some vines. And I'm debating whether to make them brown or green. Well, I got out my green, and I was talking to you last week about how I organize my clay. And this is what I use. This is one of those boxes that you get at the craft store, like at Michael's. It's got a magnetic flap, which is lovely. And then it opens up for storing things. And this is what I've got. I've got my blocks of clay on one side. And then on this side, I have scraps. Yep. And I save those until I don't. And these are very inexpensive little containers I found at the craft store. I actually had a lot of criteria for these when I went shopping for them. They had to be square so that they wouldn't take up unnecessary space in my container. They had to be the right plastic so that I could store raw polymer clay in there. And they're number 5, I think. Yeah, they're number 5 recycle number, which is fine with polymer clay. And I've had these for years, and I've had no problems. And they also couldn't be too tall because I needed to be able to close the lid. And this has worked out great. The only time you're going to have issues is if the raw clay is touching the cardboard, which sometimes it does, like you might be able to see here. If it's touching the cardboard, it's going to leach a little bit. But so I try to keep that from happening, but I don't worry over much if it does. And I have these all stacked on a shelf. They're called gills. Thank you, Deborah. Those little things on mushrooms. And so I really, many projects can go by before I ever open a fresh container or package of polymer clay. I will just go in and grab. So I've kind of got these roughly separated. These are more blue greens. These are more yellow greens. Oh, I think this is supposed to be, this one's supposed to be yellows. They're obviously maybe not as organized. I actually have a lot of green. This is supposed, that's right, this box is yellow and green. So this is supposed to be yellows. And this is supposed to be blue-green and yellow-green. But, you know, we have overflow. So let's see, what would look good? That's kind of interesting. Maybe a little bright, huh? Oh, there we go. Kind of a grayed out. Yeah. So how is everybody doing? Boy, this has been a long few weeks, huh? It's been so strange, so bizarre. Going out shopping is the strangest experience. Yeah, I think that's maybe too gray. Yeah, maybe some of No, I don't know. Maybe a little bit of that pearly green. Yeah. Do I have a dark green? You know, like a Huntress green. Haha. So I like to find, this is what I do, I just find a mix of different colors, darks, lights, and maybe a little bit of this yellowy green too. So darks, lights, brights, a little metallic, perhaps. Taking the time to explore the world of polymer clay. Well, you'll need, yeah, or at least make a start to it, because the world of polymer clay is huge. Oh, here we go, some lighter, which I think has some pearl in it. And I end up with this wad of clay that's probably far more, definitely far more than I'm going to need. Oh, I like that blue-green. But I've got some lights, some darks, and some metallic. That's kind of just my recipe. I tell you one thing, I'm so thankful that, was it not quite 2 years ago, or is it 3 years ago? Now I've lost track. Some time ago, not too long ago, I finally decided to let my hair go to its natural color. I got tired of, well, spending $80 every 6 weeks to, to get it colored. And I decided to just let it go my natural color. And I've been very pleased with it. So I feel for the gals who have roots growing in. And my hair is so fine, I really never could use the box stuff without damaging my hair really badly. So before I get back to that, I'm just taking this and kind of, I'm going to condition it a bit, warm it up a little, just so that I can give it some twists and just lightly blend these colors. So not only is there, yeah, no haircuts, no pedicures, manicures, unless you do it yourself. And, you know, you face it, they do so much better a job when you go somewhere and have them do it. But then also my hairdresser, I think sometime in December, suggested that I let my layers grow out, because I've been wearing my hair more straight rather than curly. It's naturally curly, but I've been wearing it straight. So I haven't needed to go to the hairdresser for months. So I'm so thankful during this time that the only thing I had to do was trim my bangs. And I'm thankful. I was watching my hairdresser very carefully last time she did it. Or, well, the last few times she did it, and notice that you don't just cut straight across, but she kind of comes in at an angle and sort of feathers those ends, and it looks so much better. So now that I've got this kind of warmed up and flattened out a little bit so it won't be too much for my pasta machine, just getting out a bubble, I'm just going to send it through the pasta machine. Whoop. My light a little bit. What is that? Oh. I want to mix that just a little bit more. But this is my approach to, well, anything natural. I prefer not to have a solid colored clay. So whether I'm doing this gray, it may look like a solid gray, but if you look closely, and if you were making it with me, you know it was a mixture of colors. The same with the shingles. It was a mixture of colors. I mean, it reads as a solid color, but if it were just one solid color, it would be kind of boring. So Belinda, you said you're exploring the world of polymer clay. Tell me what kinds of things you're exploring. There are so many things. There's sculpting, there's caning, there's imitation. You know, the faux, the whole world of faux things. There we go. That's a good place to start. Then I'm just going to cut a little piece. Fairy houses. Well, that's a fun place to start. I guess that's why you're here. I have a Facebook group. I don't know if you've joined yet. I'll be sure to link it in the description. And there's a few folks who have shared their fairy houses. Now you can roll this out with your fingers. You could even extrude the clay, but we're making vines, so I prefer to do it by hand. But to get a somewhat even piece, just an acrylic block like you use for rubber stamping. I'll tell you, I was amazed once I got into polymer clay how many of my scrapbooking supplies actually work great for polymer clay too. But if I'm making vines, I like to go back over it with my fingers and roll it so that it's not perfectly even. And you could extrude it just for speed, but then go back over it with your fingers. So now, I'm really not sure. I don't have a total vision for this. I do want some liquid clay. And where's my brush? There we go. Let's see. Maybe we'll have some vines curling around the door. I was really happy the way the antiquing came out on this. You can see it was, I think, burnt umber paint, a dark brown paint. And you can see it shows up much more on the roof, but because these lines were very shallow, it only shows up faintly on the stones, but I really like that. It just kind of tied the two together. So let's put some liquid clay. You always want to, if you're going to put raw clay to baked clay, you always want to put a little liquid clay. It really is the best bonder. Makes a very strong bond. Say that in slightly better English. And I'll just roll those ends. You can see once you roll it out like this, the variation is pretty subtle, but it just keeps it interesting, I think. And then here's me, not a straight line in sight, because organic. That's kind of blah. I'll cut it out. Okay. And if that happens and you don't like it, we'll put a leaf there. Let's see. I suppose it would be better when doing something like this, and I enjoy it when I'm doing something like this, to kind of make up a story about the fairies who live here. We talked about this in another live stream about making up stories which inform the design decisions that we make. But honestly, I've been just tired lately. I just have not had the mental bandwidth to do it. In fact, if you got the reminder email last night, I'm sorry it went out so late. I kind of completely forgot that this was going to happen. And I actually even thought about canceling. I just was tired. Boy, I'm having trouble with this. All right. We're just going to stay. But I knew there would be some of you who would be disappointed if I canceled, because I did promise I would do it. So here I am, keeping my word. But yeah, the creativity is just, some days it's really hard and I just don't feel like it. I kind of just want to, I don't know, sit and watch a TV show or read a book, or I guess enjoy the fruits of somebody else's creativity. Okay, not liking that. So have you all been reading or watching TV shows? I'd love to know some suggestions. You can probably guess I really like fantasy. Although I did just finally watch the 3rd season of Stranger Things. I'm mostly there for the 80s throwback stuff. I graduated in 84, so I get a kick out of that stuff. Hoarders, really? So that's not fiction, that's like reality. All right, some liquid clay. I think I would have a hard time watching that. If it's what I'm picturing, people who have way too much stuff, I think it would drive me crazy. I'm a very organized and tidy person. Does it? Yeah, never mind. Well, that's not impressive. I don't know. Let's see, first of all, vines are growing from the ground. So they need to kind of be attached. They need to start in the from the bottom, right? Hi, Shirley from Montana. Welcome. And I'm glad you're here today to learn something new. We are finishing up a fairy house that we've been working on for the past couple of weeks, and I'll be sure to link to the other 2 live streams where we did the building and did the roof the last 2 weeks. All right. I don't know. What do you think? I'm not impressed. What is it that's frustrating, Add Jewelry? Tell me your first name if you don't, or I could just call you Add Jewelry. From gardening to claying to reading to TV to baking to cooking. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like a good mix of activities. It's a little cool yet for gardening here. I planted some seeds, and those are doing well. And I've been trying not to gain back all the weight I lost, so I've been trying to limit the cooking, although it's very tempting. Hoarders is frustrating. Oh, okay. Hi, April. Yeah, it sounds like it would be frustrating. It would be aggravating to watch. Some people must enjoy it because it's been around a while. I think I've heard of it for quite some time. I don't know about these vines. Let's look at something else. I'm like not thrilled with these at all. Like I said, my mind maybe isn't in the right place. Let's look at maybe something to add a little magic. And that is crystals. Crystal points. We can also add some mushrooms. That's right, I meant to get out my translucent clay. These you can buy on strands at Michael's. And they tied them together very well. There's a knot between each and every one. That might be kind of cute. Maybe like a crystal garden. I think I'm going to play with that idea. Some of these I got from Dollar Bead Box. Let's see. I don't know about that. That's kind of pretty, but it's kind of huge also. I don't know. Well, I'll take them out. This is one way I design is that I'll pull out everything. No. that I think could possibly work, and I'll just have it in front of me as possibilities. And then often it's just kind of a process of elimination. These are stick pearls. Kind of cool, but no. I'm going to say definitely not. This is cool, but it's resin and just not the right shape. I think that's some pyrite. Whoop. Crash, bang. I don't know. What else do I have on the table here? Let's see. Oh, beads. Flower beads. This whole box is flower beads. So I'm going to sculpt beads, flowers, out of clay. But I thought also, if you didn't want to, if you had little tiny beads, these are also from Dollar Bead Box. These are pretty sweet. You could, I think they're a little big, but you could put these on a head pin and then put a loop at the end of the head pin and stuff that into some clay, and then you could stick those on. So that's kind of cute. Most of the rest of these are too big for that. Even, yeah, these are little flowers. Let's play with the crystals. Let's see. We'll put some liquid clay. Ugh, making a mess. For those of you who are a part of my Keepsake Crafts Create Facebook group, I don't know if you saw a post I recently shared. I made some curtains. Yes, curtains for my husband's chicken coop. They're for the nest boxes. A fairy house for fairy dolls. Well, that sounds like fun. Let's see. What if... Oh, you know what? All right. I gotta cut these apart. So anyways, so my husband asked me, or I'd have volunteered, I don't know. But he was telling me this problem he was having with his chickens. He's got 20 chickens. They're 3 different ages. You know, the first group he ever got, I think, are 5 years old now. 4 or 5 years old. And then he got some the next year that are a year younger. So they're lower on the pecking order. Pecking order is a real thing. Just like it was with the mean girls in high school, or anybody, anywhere really, I suppose. And then he got some younger ones. Last year he got Easter eggers, which actually lay blue and green eggs. They're so pretty. But the middle ones, they're leghorns. They're all white chickens. He called them the nest box bouncers. So they will go up and down. They will march up and down the rows of nest boxes and pull out anybody in there who's sitting in there minding their own business trying to lay some eggs. Pull them out by the comb, just like mean girls pulling hair is all I can picture when he tells me this. Did I leave? I can't see that. Come out. There we go. Well, that's kind of fun. I don't know. Somebody make up a story about why there are crystals growing on the side of this house, because my brain can't handle it. I know you probably can't see it so well, but I need to put this on the table in order to jam these in and get that clay. And I'm doing it, if I was trying to do it really well, I would put some wire in here and like make a twist, and then that would grab into the clay. And it would be very permanent once it's baked. But I'm just trying to press these in deeply. Oh, that's cool. I like that. Yeah, they're basically, the curtains are basically denim rectangles. I think he asked me to redo them. Well, he told me they needed to be, but he hasn't given me the specifications. They're just denim rectangles, and I put Velcro across the top, and then he's got the other half of the Velcro on the boxes, but I think he said it's not holding as well as he thought it would, so we'll have to, and they're too long, so I'll have to like take them out and make a rod pocket or something. He just hasn't gotten to the details. But basically, since they can't see the chickens that are in the nest box, they don't bother them, the big old bullies. Can you imagine that? You're sitting in there laying an egg, minding your own business, and somebody comes along and pulls you out by the hair comb. I mean, how rude. They really can be very mean, the things they do. Yeah, when we got chickens, it really is very real, Shirley. When we got chickens, we suddenly realized the meaning of so many of these sayings that we've heard but never really understood. I think I want a little bit more green over here. So this is what I've got. I'm just jammed them in there, and I'll texture that in a moment. I think I want a little bit more green on the side to support it. Things like bird brain. Oh, yeah. They are not real bright. I mean, they have their own intelligence that the Lord gave them to help them survive. They're very good at spotting predators. But boy, they get stuck on the wrong side of the fence. And if the fence is here, be still. There we go. And there's a gap in the fence, and you're holding the gap open for them. They will run back and forth here. And so you try to nudge them this way, and then they'll go. You're like, why'd you go through the hole, you silly creature? They're fun, though. My husband loves them. They all have names, which means we will not be eating them. We did eat the rooster. He was very much in need of eating. He was mean. So I'm just going to, let's see, stab it. I think I'll do more little circles. Kind of make like a moss look. Oh, maybe I'll put some, can I put some mushrooms in amidst these or in a separate place? So what kinds of details, am I going to mash that? I got to watch out. I'll do that. Be holding it and I'll just wreck everything, which is one reason I love that you can pre-bake polymer clay. Go back in and add more details. So what are details that you would be adding to your fairy houses? Again, I could only think of so many, and then I got stuck. And my brain just said, yeah, I'm done. I'm done working with you. I've been overloaded lately with masks and sanitizing and alcohol. And that's one good thing about doing polymer clay is I had a bottle and a half of rubbing alcohol. Some of it left over from a class I taught last fall. I've had several packages of wipes also left over from that class. What else? I had a bunch of things that like people were running out of, and I was like, oh no, I'm all set. Wow. Very thankful how that worked out. So moss is easy. If you've ever done a little cake, it's pretty much the same thing. You just take a pointy tool and make little circles and rough it up, and you get the look of moss. You can poke up and down. You can do little circles. You can do lines and rough it up. So that's looking kind of interesting. I have no idea what that is or why it's there, but it's kind of magical looking. Bushes with green and different colors mixed in the top. Vines and flowers. Yeah, vines and flowers are great. Oh, mine were not coming out good, which is why I moved on to crystals. I think I'll go from here to mushrooms. I don't know why, but something about the look of the mushrooms I find kind of fascinating. So yeah, that's my nest box curtains story. Mean chickens. They're out there begawking right now. The windows are closed still. Maybe in a couple more weeks the windows will be open. That'll be nice. And I still haven't decided what I'm going to do for a live stream for the last 2 weeks in April. I know some folks requested dragons. Honestly, I'm not sure about that because it's kind of part of my business plan to reserve those for paid classes. Like I've been doing the past few years, Polymer Clay Adventure. Each one is a dragon. But maybe we'll do a simple dragon. Ooh, I kind of like that. Okay. And then all these crumbles, actually, you can just put right back on. Or you can not, whatever. I sort of like that. And that'll look really cool if you add some antiquing to it. And if the crystal points aren't embedded in deeply enough, after baking, you can just pop them out and then add in some strong glue like E6000 is great. Well, that's interesting and magical. All right, I promised you flowers, and Belinda mentioned vines and flowers, so let me get out my pinks and purples and look at flowers. So this is the box with pinks and purples. Trying not to get it in the liquid clay or make a mess of this. But get it so you can see it. And this is what I often do is I'll take my piece and hold it over here and then decide. So here's purples, here's pinks. I think once upon a time I had it separated into cool purples and cool pinks and warm pinks. And I suppose they're sort of like that, but not really. So let's see. I think like the green, I want something a little brighter than that, but kind of dusty and grayed out. So maybe some of this mixed with something a little, boy, that's bubblegummy. I think that's the color, so 80s. I want purple. I think I do want kind of more pink. This is a pretty one. This is, I think, is called Sunset Pearl. Maybe those two together. Let's see what we got. Like I said, I could make many projects without, oh, there we go, without ever opening a fresh package of clay. Whoop. Belinda, bushes with green and different colors mixed in on the top. That kind of, for some reason, that makes me think of Jenny Sorensen from Wishing Well Workshop. Have you seen her things? She makes the cutest little fairy houses. They're very simple in some ways, but they're adorable. She does a lot of texturing and bushes, and she does great color blending. All right, so I'm going to mix these together, maybe not completely. Oh, gosh. Okay, my pasta machine was set on a thin setting. I really should make a point of checking that. Oh, I think that's going to be a good color. All right. Oh, that's pretty. Just kind of tone down that sunset pearl a little bit. So actually now I'm going to roll this out on a really thin setting. Yeah, I love that you don't have to mix things perfectly, and although that's maybe mixed a little bit more. I'm going to roll this out really, really thin, the thinnest setting on my pasta machine, and it will still be actually kind of thick. Go down to 9, which is about 3/10 of a millimeter. There, and I did 3 passes, so we've got kind of a variety. And what I love to use are these little itty bitty 3/16 Kemper cutters. And I want the flower. Here we go. And we'll just chomp out a few of those. Teeny tiny. But still, then when you look at the size of that, I don't know how well you can see it, but it's pretty thick for the size of it. It actually needs to be a fair amount thinner. I don't know if the camera's focusing. So we'll chomp out a few of those. Okay, and now I'm going to use my ball tool. And I apologize last week. So I send out a reminder. I send out an email like on Mondays sometime telling about the live stream as a reminder. And then I try to remember to send one out like on Tuesday morning sometime, just, you know, that it's happening today. And last week, if you were here with the live stream, I said, gee, I thought I sent one out and I don't remember getting it. Because I get it. I'm on the list too, just so I can see that it came through. And oh, wow, yeah, that didn't come through. And then it came through at 9:15 p.m. So I had put p.m. instead of a.m. I'm so sorry. So this is what I do with these. And you can do them with any size ball tool and any size flower. So like if you have this one from the Sculpey set, I get more use out of this Sculpey Mini Geometric set. You could use a bigger ball tool just to give your flowers some shape. So I'm going to do 2 things here with this. And I know it's hard. I'll try to hold it up a little closer. I'm, first of all, pressing each of those little petals onto the ball tool to thin it out a bit. Because like I said, that even though this is rolled out 3/10 of a millimeter, it's so tiny that those edges look really thick. And it's also giving it a lovely cupped shape. Then I'll just use the edge of my thumb and gently stroke it off. And there you go. You have a little flower. So tiny. And I love these bent needle tools because it's so easy to pick it up and stick it someplace. Get on there. Okay. Or don't stick. Stick. And you can also take your tool, this is a little silicone tip tool, and shape that flower even more. So let's add a few. Yeah, I can talk. Let's add a few more flowers. That's what I was trying to say. So I went to Costco last weekend. They still didn't have any toilet paper. Thankfully, my grocery store had some, although they had a limit of one package. But that was another thing. I had just bought a big package of toilet paper at Costco before all this hit. So we still have plenty. We're still good. But I went to Costco, and if you've been there, you know, well, like any grocery store, you know that they have a refrigerator section where they have cold things. I came out of there, my nose was running, and I was like, oh no, oh no, 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 I'm not going to blow my nose or sneeze. I can see getting, you know, the natives coming after me with torches and pitchforks. So, oh, gadgets, yes. These particular ones are some of my workhorses. There's a lot of things in that organizer that I don't use all the time, but I would say this ball tool set and these two cutter sets are probably the ones I use the most. Yeah. I keep forgetting I own this. Aniko, Mandarin Ducky, sent me that. Is that right? No. No, excuse me. It was Jessima. Sorry. Samantha from Jessima Tutorials sent me a bunch of things from her shop, and that was one of them. Oh, that's cute. Okay. I'm liking that a little better now. Sometimes you just have to walk away and come back with fresh eyes. Yeah, Samantha from Jessima Tutorials, she has a really nice line of cutters. I got several sets from her. I did a few videos. I should probably put them in a playlist. Let's see. So my goal here is to not make a straight line, but kind of have a nice zigzaggy line. Pink and gray. Oh. I had a friend, oh, she's still a friend, who had a kitchen that was pink and gray. I actually really didn't like it. I never told her that. But it's funny, I don't know if it's because my hair's gone gray now. I find myself liking gray more, and I used to joke, you could always tell when I put out the laundry, you know, which was mine and which was my husband's and both of my sons. Because mine are all the colors, the, oh gosh, the teals and turquoises and pinks and purples, and all of their stuff was black and gray. And that was it. I'm sorry you got to see my ragged sweater. I absolutely adore this, this wool top, but it is falling apart. And I meant to keep it covered so you couldn't see. I couldn't bring myself to get rid of it because it's just so comfortable. I think we need some down here. Kind of hiding. Get in there. But that works much better than the needle tool, which was not working at all. All right, I'll put one more on. I might come back later and add some exceedingly minuscule yellow balls in the center. Like almost impossible to roll them that small balls. I actually made a pair of earrings with little flowers this small. I'm very thankful for my magnifying light. Like a cascade of a whole bunch of these. Let's see. Yeah, right there. Okay, that'll do for now. I can come back and add more. Hey, moss, you belong on there. Where are you going to? There. Okay. So you can see how those little tiny pieces that I pulled off of these blocks are like enough for a village of fairy houses. It's amazing how small the amounts are that you need. Oh, and I didn't make any leaves. Yeah, let's see. So, I meant to grab my translucent and forgot, so excuse me for a sec. I'll get that. And actually, instead of translucent, well, it is translucent. This is opal clay. It's made by Primo. And it's basically translucent clay with these little bits of mylar flakes in there, which can be a pain in the behind because they often stick out and get in the way. They can also make it very difficult if you're like trying to cut a clean cut. You can see the edges are ragged. But I do like them using it to make kind of magical looking mushrooms. We're going to do a similar trick with the ball tool. So you roll a ball and really keep squishing it around until it feels compact and firm with no air bubbles in there. And then we'll press it over the ball tool. And similar to the way we did the flower, just kind of flatten those edges, although you don't need to flatten them as much. You can have a rounded mushroom, or you can sort of pinch it and make more of a pointy mushroom. You can also take it off the ball tool, shape it a little more. And then, yeah, see those mylar flakes in there also really help it trap air, which is annoying. So I'm just rolling a little bit for a stem. And where shall we put the mushrooms? Shall we put some over here or in there? No, I think we'll have crystals on one side and mushrooms on the other. I mean, what is this house growing? I don't know. They've got some kind of magic going on. Yeah, I do like that. That deep pink and the gray that's pretty. All right. So here's our mushroom, and what you want to do is actually add a dab of liquid clay right inside there. And then use the cut end of your stem. That way you have good contact. And I like to do it kind of like this, so you get, and that's really a little skinny for that size mushroom. But I like to kind of have it squiggly. Like I said, I don't often have many straight lines in sight in my projects. There we go, that's a better proportion. There we go. Yeah. And then we'll put it, ooh, I like. And we can make a bigger one, just with a bigger ball and a bigger ball tool. And you might feel like you have a little more control. Because boy, those things are tiny and your fingers feel massive. So I'm shaping that to more of a cone. And I just leave those ragged edges on because I think it adds a lot. And, ooh, I like that. Okay, we need, I think, a longer stem than that. I love doing this kind of thing. I mean, it's fun just sitting here talking to you guys. But I often listen to a good audiobook. Hi, Kay. Thank you. What have I been listening to? Well, I highly recommend the Outlander audiobooks. They're amazing. I've also been listening to Michael Sullivan. Oh, hi, Hira. Love you too. So glad you could join us today. We'll add some liquid clay. Yeah, Michael Sullivan, the Legends of the First Empire. Is that a little thick? Nope. It's just about perfect, but I do want to kind of poke that because it doesn't feel like it's going to stick very well otherwise. All right, we need to add a little more liquid clay to the house so it will have a good bond. And suppose another thing is here we go. I kind of want them to not all be flopped on the house. Is you might bake them separately and then glue them on, because right now that one's going mirror because it's so big. That one's almost too big, isn't it, compared to the other one? So let's see, we've done vines, flowers, crystals, a mushroom that's too big. There we go. All right, where's that other ball tool? All right, I think I'm going to just remake that. But you should hear the chickens out there. They are begawking away. They're making such a racket. But at least we don't have a rooster anymore. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I think this one, I may bake it all by its lonesome and then glue it in place afterwards. Because it just is not going to behave. It's too big. And I want it to look like, well, like these crystals, kind of like they're all sprouting out from the house. And this is just going to look like they're all drunkenly leaning up against the house. So that's okay. We can bake them separately and then glue them on with E6000 or super glue or whatever. And that will give you a bit more control over placement. So that's mushrooms. Oh, and you know what I didn't do was leaves. I said I'd do leaves. So let's do leaves. Leaves, gosh, there's a bajillion ways of doing leaves. Well, you can do a sheet. Let me take some of this. That's a good way of doing it. And I'm going to roll this through the pasta machine on the number 9 setting, which is about 3/10 of a millimeter. And again, I'm going to use this Kemper set and the little teardrop. These are 3/16 cutters. It comes in the flower, the teardrop, a circle, and a heart. You can also use the hearts for leaves. We'll do some of each. You cut one out, and oh, it's on the floor. Okay, cut another one out. Ignore the one on the floor. I'll scrub it out of the carpet with alcohol later. I have the worst carpet. I'm so thankful for my studio. I'm thankful to have a house and a floor in it. But I really, really, really dislike the carpet that is in my studio. It is this mottled gray. And if I drop anything, you just give up. Yeah, abandon all hope. Yeah, I don't even bother trying to look for it. If I look, I usually find the thing I dropped the day before. So you have little heart-shaped leaves or little teardrop shapes. And here's a trick. Remember I mentioned those are a little thick? You can take just a scrap of paper. This is a piece of index card. And flatten it out. And now it's thin. Take your blade and fix the shape. And you can use whatever, a blade gently or a needle tool or the back side of your blade. let's see, I got my needle tool here, so I'll do this. And just kind of give the indication of lines. Don't press too hard because this clay is very thin and very small, and you'll just cut right through it. Use your clay blade to scrape it up. And I like to kind of give it a pinch on both ends. And then needle tool. See if the needle tool behaves better for placing the leaves than it did for placing the flowers. Yes. There. And the heart-shaped ones, well, they're, you know, you've seen leaves. I mean, there's all different shapes. We think of that teardrop shape. Oh, this is kind of turning back into a teardrop when I flatten it. But, you know, if you look in nature, leaves come in lots of different shapes. So there's that heart shape. And we'll just add, yeah, okay, this is easier. That is so tiny. Something. Just give it some texture rather than leaving it flat. And again, I would, sometimes if it's tiny, you can kind of get your nail, like your thumbnail in there, and give it some shape. That one's a little ragged, but you know what? It won't matter. Here we go. Come on. Okay, there it is. Teeny tiny. Maybe one down here. There we go. Just a light touch. If you're just learning polymer clay, that is probably the most important thing, and one of the hardest things to learn is to cultivate a light touch. So we'll just add a few more leaves. Okay. I wanted an odd number anyways. There. It's not a booger. It's a piece of opal clay. You can tell because it sparkles, and my boogers don't sparkle, I'm pretty sure. Oh, gosh. I don't even know where that one went. It was going, what direction it was facing in. Doesn't matter. Let's see. Okay, pinch. And pinch. There we go. And drop it on the table because my fingers are too big. And where was that one I wasn't happy with? There we go. Oh, that's cute. And this is why these tiny, delicate details are why I think it's a really good idea to antique your main piece before you start adding those details, because then you don't have to worry about making a mess of them when you're wiping away paint from antiquing. That is just a leaf-shaped blob, huh? I don't even know what direction that's supposed to be going in. But there you go. Add those two little pinches and suddenly it doesn't matter. It just looks great. Because you wouldn't want to paint over this entire thing and then try to get in all these little spaces. Oh, come back. To remove the excess paint. That's not the right one. So that's my tip of the day for you, is antique your main piece first. And then add your details. Let's see, we want a little leaf poking right there. Yeah, okay. So I hope this has given you some inspiration and ideas. Actually, hang on a sec. There we are. Hi. I hope this has given you some inspiration and ideas to go and create your own fairy houses. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you guys today. And I'm going to go off and finish this up. And I hope that you will share what you've made on Facebook. I will be sure I will share links. Give me a couple hours or go check out the other ones that I did a few weeks ago. But I'll share links in the description box to the tools and materials I used, and also to the Facebook group, Keepsake Crafts Create, where several folks have already shared their fairy houses and other things they've made. Oh good. I'm so glad you had fun, and it was informative. I had fun too. I will see you next week. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I will be here if I possibly can be, and I'll send out an email letting you know what's going to be happening. You are very welcome. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.